Welcome to Rage Quit Radio. This is Mike, and I'm joined this week by America's favorite black man,
Chris.
And making his triumphant return to Rage Quit Radio,
Rich Morrow.
Rich Morrow.
He says it in the least triumphant voice humanly possible.
It hasn't been a very triumphant week.
This is true, but we got a recording session today. We are going to be playing lots of games, not the least of which is going to be our next miniatures game we're going to be talking about on the show, and that is a little bit of Batman later on in this episode, folks. That's going to be a lot of fun. The holidays have come and gone. Some good stuff has happened. Unfortunately, some bad stuff has happened, which we probably won't go into overly much, if at all. But we'll focus on the good and the positive here on RQR. If you do hear a sound that sounds like a that would be because we have this wonderful frontline gaming mat here that we're going to be playing Batman on. We'll try and take some pictures and whatnot and get them up on the RQR Facebook page as two turntables and a microphone.
No.
So, real quick before we get too far into things, Chris.
Yes.
What you been up to since the last time we spoke? What you been playing? What you been doing? How was Christmas to you? Etc. Etc. Etc.
We had Christmas early because my mom had to work Christmas Day because she works at the hospital. But not too much. Not too bad. I mean, a few gift cards here and there for stuff I need. But for the most part, I've just been I've been doing a lot of work and haven't had a chance to really sit down and do a lot of playing, except for playing Batman at Rich's house. We even got a game of Naruto in before I left. Pretty good fun. So.
Good deal. It has been a long time since we recorded an episode of Rage Quit Radio with Rich Morrow in the house. So, why don't you... We're on YouTube now with new audience, new people listening to us every day. So, why don't you reintroduce yourself, so to speak. We did that on episode 1 for everybody. Why don't you reintroduce yourself to the RQR audience and let us know what you've been up to since we recorded last.
Okay. Well, I started gaming when I was 12.
Right.
And with Magic the Gathering, CCG.
Seems like everyone's starting point for some reason.
I was never good at it. I don't have the mind for CCGs at all. Walked into Planet Comics one day to buy some more cards and saw Wayne and Matt Zeglin playing Warhammer and did not know what it was, asked some questions. Come in Friday, we'll teach you, and hooked. So I played Warhammer 40k and Fantasy on and off for years and years and years. Still will occasionally dabble in it if the edition's worth looking at. Moved from that to War Machine. Started playing War Machine like when it launched in Mark 1. Played a lot of that. Wasn't very good at it. Mark 2 came out.
You got better.
I got way better. Had a lot of success with War Machine. I had a really good streak there. Nothing to complain about. In recent months, I've been dabbling in a lot of other games. Recently started playing the Batman Miniatures game. It's probably the most fun game I've played to date. It's not one of those where I really care if I win or lose. It's very thematic, and I'm all about thematics in miniature games. That's why we do this.
Sure.
And also, just it's a ton of fun. So, and we'll talk about it more as the episode progresses, I'm sure. I've also been dabbling a little bit of Guild Ball, which I'm sure we'll do an episode about at some point.
Definitely.
It's another really good fun game. And just other miniature games and stuff. But Batman and Guild Ball pretty much all I'm doing now.
One of the reasons that RQR has shifted focus to become more of a tabletop general podcast than strictly War Machine or Hordes, because a lot of us have drifted out of playing that as our primary game. So, as I was telling Dennis, and on one of our last episodes, or it might have been between recordings, I'm not sure. Was it like Madrak 3 that was like the breaking point where you just said, I'm done?
It was Doomy 3.
Oh,
Doomy 3 was the foot that snapped the branch that is my mind.
Because realistically, I almost thought Haley 3 was going to do it. It didn't quite get there, and then...
Well, I think Haley 3 doing it was thematics.
Yeah, it was thematics for Haley 3. I'm like, don't put time travel in my fucking steampunk game, and they did it anyway. But, I mean, I got over that. I even bought some models after that, and it just, man, like, the game is not... And I am not downing War Machine and Hordes.
No, not at all.
It is a good game. As far as competitive market goes, it's one of the best out there.
Yes.
It comes highly recommended from me. But the balance has definitely shifted. It's kind of in Mark 1. Mark 1 was always kind of way wacky. And toward the end, man, like the game balance, like there were just factions that won and factions that didn't win, and that's why Mark 2 had to happen. And this feels like that all over again to me.
Like we're starting to inch towards where Mark 3 might become more and more necessary.
And if they take a step back, look at the game, rebalance it, I'll definitely revisit it. I still have all my stuff. I'm not going to sell anything. So we'll see what happens with it. But as for right now, I've hung up the models. I have no interest in touching them right now.
Well, luckily there's interest in touching some models, except now it's the Caped Crusader and various other cronies, or a steampunk version of soccer. So, both of which we'll talk about on the show at some point or another. One much sooner than the other one. Myself for Christmas, well, let's see. We wound up, my wife is fucking awesome. She got me a bunch of Blu-rays. So I've got Flash Season 1, Arrow Season 3, Gotham Season 1, and I've seen all of Arrow and Flash on Netflix. I haven't been watching Gotham on Netflix. I've been catching up on other stuff. So we've been binge watching Gotham, and I freaking love Gotham.
Yeah, see, that's the only show I didn't get for Christmas. I got the other ones.
It's amazing. If you take that step back and realize that, I was having this conversation last night with a friend. If you step back and realize that a comic book is really a short entertainment form, I mean, it's 32 pages, of which there are ads, and there's probably only 4 actual full pages of dialogue. So it's a really short form entertainment that leaves a lot to the imagination because you can't fill in all the blanks in a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
A movie adapted from a comic book is a good form because a movie is 75 to 120 minutes. It's short form. You can't fill in all the blanks. You're going to have to leave certain things out, so you basically leave out what the comics left out. On a TV show that is heavily serialized, telling one story over the course of a 20-something episode season, you're going to wind up 22, 23 hours of footage. You can't leave as much out. You have to start filling in blanks. And you can't be as faithful to the comics as a lot of people would want you to be. Gotham's not. But I think if you walk into that show with the mindset of, A, you are not watching Smallville with Batman, which is where I think a lot of people's problem with the show initially was. Mm-hmm. You're watching the story of Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
And if you get past the first episode, because I didn't like the first episode felt like they had a checklist, and they were ticking off names. It's like Edward Nygma, check. Harvey Bullock, check. Renee Montoya, check. Oswald Cobblepot, check. Selena Kyle, check. And it was like, just make sure you mention all of these people in the first episode. But once you get past that, it's awesome. And I love, love, love Sean Pertwee as Alfred Pennyworth. Because Alfred is a fucking badass in the show. Alfred,
yes.
You watch Gotham?
I do, and I feel like the show should be called Alfred, the First Batman.
Yeah. Well, I'm on disc 2, so I think, spoilers for anyone that's listening that hasn't watched all of season 1 of Gotham, but you probably should have by this point.
Yes.
I'm just now to the point where they have outed that the Penguin, he got in with Maroni, and they've just outed that he's really Falcone's mole.
Oh,
so,
wow, yeah, I've seen all the seasons 1 and 2.
So I'm playing catch up.
Gotcha.
In the last episode we watched is the one where Alfred gives Bruce his father's watch to use as a makeshift pair of brass knucks to beat the shit out of a bully. And the fact that the Alfred walks up after the damage is done and goes, "Are you okay? No broken bones?" And the kid, the bully's in there going, "He tried to kill me." And Alfred says, "Yes, he did. But more importantly, remember, I let him." I was like, holy shit!
Without spoiling anything, there's an episode, and I believe it's going to be in season 2. Alfred, there's a home invasion. Now, I'm not going to say who, because that would be a spoiler.
Sure.
There's a home invasion, and some people come in, and Alfred is shot. Proceeds to beat the shit out of 2 of the home invaders, and run another one down through the city, while bleeding to death.
Yeah. So... Sean Pertwee is playing Alfred as a badass, which I loved his father. Sean Pertwee's dad was John Pertwee, who was the 3rd Doctor in Doctor Who. He was the first Doctor in color. And I'll show this because I know that my co-hosts here are not overly familiar with Doctor Who, but Sean is the spitting image of his father.
Holy crap, he is.
I'm showing them a picture of John Pertwee as Doctor Who right now, and yeah, he looks just like him. He actually dressed up as him for Halloween one year.
That's funny.
And what I love is he's actually also told the BBC that if they ever wanted to bring the Third Doctor back, that he would be honored to play his father's role and be the Third Doctor.
Well, that's cool.
So, which Doctor Who has miniatures too. Maybe they'll make a game out of it one day. But
so does Star Wars actually. The same model, the same guys that make the Batman miniature game, actually produce a line of just different 35 mil, and they've got some 70 mil stuff, which are more like statuettes. Right. But they've got a few Star Wars figures, and they're gorgeous. Like there's no rules or anything. But.
Sure. Well, let's speaking of stuff that Night Models makes. Let's take a look a little bit at Night Models, because they make some really gorgeous stuff. They make it, obviously right now Batman is seemingly the bread and butter, but they've done stuff for other DC characters. You said Star Wars, Marvel. Mm-hmm. Why don't we tell us a little bit about the game first? What drew you towards Batman?
So the game, and I actually had approached you with this years ago, Mike.
Right.
I was like, hey man, I just found out there's a Batman game.
Right.
You know, I'm not a huge DC guy, but when I do DC things, like my favorite characters are the Bat villains.
Right.
My original take on that game was that one person had to play Batman, and I was like, oh, it's going to be one of these games where I need a villain crew and a Batman crew, and I didn't like that. So I was like, I'm not doing it. Earlier this year, they released their first rule book. The rules were a free PDF online, and they put the rule book out and apparently cleaned it up some. The problem with the old edition, them being a Spanish company, the Spanish to English translation was terrible, and it was just illegible. You couldn't read it.
Right.
So I was just perusing and looking for things to try, and I stumbled across it, and I was like, man, I'm kind of interested. So I talked to a couple guys about it. You know, I was going to see if I could generate some interest, because I'm really tired of buying games and then not getting to play them because no one gets into it with me. But of course, with Batman, you know, this isn't every other game where you're like, oh, I'm playing some dwarves. Oh, I'm playing some elves. You're like, oh, I'm playing Bruce Wayne. You have attachment to these characters, and I think that goes a long way toward making people want to do it. Mm-hmm. I know that Borderlands has been trying to stock it and cannot keep it on the shelf. Even people that don't play miniatures games are buying these models because they have an attachment to the characters.
Sure.
So I talked to a guy, Michael Moore in Greenville, and man, he's a huge Batman fan, and I mean, he just immediately pulled the trigger. He ordered models that night. So when he did, I was like, well, I'll get a crew. I'll buy a crew. And then I was like, well, I'll buy two. I'll have a crew and a demo crew. Mm-hmm. I ordered some models as well. The game is very... We talk a lot about thematics in games, and that is a huge deal to me. Like, when I play a miniature game, at the end of the day, we're really just pushing little metal people around a table and using our imaginations to see the things that we're doing happen. And it feels way easier with the Batman game. And you will see this as we play, and Chris can attest to it. One thing I love about this game is when you play a character, like a character that you love, it feels like you're just reading a comic book because they play so much like their character. Example, Riddler is not going to beat anybody up, but he will disrupt your entire army with his bullshit. Like, he's a mindfuck. And that's what Riddler should be. Scarecrow literally can scare people to death and gets more victory points for doing it. Two-Face has to flip a coin when he activates to see if his willpower's higher or lower, to see which side's in charge. It's called bipolar. It's genius. I love it. Like I said, you know, Borderlands had got some stuff in, and it's been selling so much that they have actually reached out to Night Models and are now a distributor for them. They have the full line coming in multiples of everything.
Wow.
Like, it's sold that good. I mean, I've actually bought, I've bought 6 crews, and I was given 2 for Christmas.
Wow. So both feet, huh?
Well,
more like head first.
It's actually blown up quite a bit, too. You know, like, off the top of my head, I'm playing. Ryan McAllister's playing. Ryan Taylor's playing. Michael Moore is playing. There's about 7 or 8 guys at Borderlands that are playing regular. Mark, the manager at Borderlands, is playing and has actually played me in a game and loves it. And there's a lot of interest in here. I know Chris is thinking about picking up a crew. I think he's just kind of, what crew do I want right now?
Yeah, I've been considering it. I want to learn and watch a few games first. That's part of what today's for.
You'll be happy to know that I played a game Monday against the TV Arrow crew, and is nasty.
Nice.
Yeah, he's very shoot you and kill you. I'm not Batman.
Yeah, I like Arrow a lot, and an Arrow crew interested me just looking at models and such. And
I will say,
and Liam Neeson, the Ra's al Ghul.
It's
crew.
funny. There's all kind of little Easter eggs on these things too. So like, there's 2 Ra's al Ghuls, and that's another thing I should probably talk about. There are multiple versions of some models. Like the Joker, there are currently 4 Jokers. There's the Titan Joker from the Arkham Asylum video game. Mm. There's the generic Joker from the Arkham video games. There's a Heath Ledger Joker from the Dark Knight Rises, or the Dark Knight movie.
Right.
And there's also, they just put out the Killing Joke Joker, which is the one that, killed Robin and paralyzed Barbara Gordon.
Right.
With Batman, they're up to like 8 of them. There's 8 Batmans.
Yeah, because I know there's like the Adam West Batman. There's an Arkham Batman.
There's a Frank Miller Batman.
Frank Miller Batman. I think there's like a Silver Age and a Modern Age Batman.
There's a couple of Arkham video game Batmans. Yeah. There's a Batman on the Batpod. They recently put out the Batmobile. There's an expansion coming out in February to add some bigger stuff to the game, like the Batmobile.
Nice.
You have to be playing like 350 points to even use it, but it's the Batmobile.
And then you have like the 2 Ra's al Ghuls. There's the comic book Ra's al Ghul,
and then there's Liam Neeson.
There's Liam Neeson. Right?
There's only one Ra's al Ghul, and then there's Liam Neeson. So one of the things
he has a particular set of skills.
He does, and what's so funny about this is people love Liam Neeson. Like all of us, I'm sure love Liam Neeson. He's a good guy. Like he's hilarious. Like I love any movie he's in, no matter how bad.
I have to ask this as a quick question, quick sidebar. You said they make Star Wars miniatures too. Have they made a Qui-Gon Jinn so that I can use that as my Ra's al Ghul?
No, they've only made
no, because then they have to make a Darth Maul that I gotta kill him with.
The only models from Star Wars that I've seen are Coyote Mundi. They have made a battle droid on the Stap, like the speeder thing. They have made Grievous with manga guards, destroyer droids, and that's all I've seen thus far. So it may be something new they're starting. I don't know. So what I was saying is there's a lot of little Easter eggs on these cards. So what is Liam Neeson most known for? I don't know who you are, but I will find you, and I will kill you.
Yes.
That Liam Neeson has a rule called Deathly Strike. He spends a special counter. If he crits you, you're dead. It is unique to that Ra's al Ghul. No one else in the game has it.
That's the thing. Each version of each character has their own particular cost, their own set of rules that's thematically correct to that miniature.
Correct. Example: Adam West Batman, not gonna beat most of these guys up. I mean, he's a better fighter than most of your generic henchmen.
Right.
But as far as Batmans go, every other Batman would stomp a hole in him.
Right.
He's more of the call the cops, let's arrest these guys. Right. He has shark repellent as a weapon.
Yes.
Whereas Christian Bale Batman will come off a roof, beat the shit out of you, and then lock you up. He'll just arrest you on the spot.
Which I've done multiple times, which is funny.
And then the Arkham series Batmans, you've got, they actually progress, like, because in the games he progresses. So like in Origins, he's kind of, this is him starting out as Batman, so it reflects that. And then the Arkham City version, he's been Batman a while. The Arkham Knight version, which tops out at the most expensive Batman right now, is 150 points, but this is Batman at his peak. This is the Batman. So, every Batman plays differently, a different point cost, and that's a good thing. It's like, you can pick up a couple Batmans and be like, oh, well, that can, like, directly affects what sidekicks you want to bring and stuff. So, like, man, I really want to play the Arkham Knight Robin, but I can't fit in with this Batman, so I'll play this Batman and still have Batman and Robin.
Right.
It's very cool. There's a lot of games out for the game right now, and more coming. They recently, I don't know if you saw this, they recently started releasing the animated series figures.
I did not.
Batman and Catwoman have been released.
Nice.
It's a much cheaper Batman, but he's still efficient, and he's very much the animated series Batman.
Nice.
That line has started. Rumor has it we might see a Mr. Freeze game from the animated series soon.
That'd be cool.
I hope he has polar bears.
Yes.
Chris, you obviously play this game and seem to enjoy it. What do you like about the Batman minis game?
To be honest, how simple it is. The only reason I haven't really picked up the idea of how to win is because most of the miniatures games I played is kill the other opponent. This one plays really more into getting the objectives and versus killing the opponent. I mean, it's not like you can't. In most cases, it's probably the best thing to do is to get your other opponent. It's in some cases, but it's a very objective thing, and for strategy and objectives, it's never gone well. It never has.
So,
even in my war,
I would say it's a fine line because what the game does right is there are objectives that you want to do. There's Titan containers and riddles to solve. So objectives are a big part of the game. Like, you certainly can't ignore the objectives.
No.
And do it, but you also get victory points from other things like KOing people, casualtying people if you're villains. There's certain characters have their own ways to generate victory points. Like I said earlier, Scarecrow can hit you with the fear gas, and you take a willpower check. For every point you fail it by, Scarecrow has a little chart, and it tells you what happens. So you'll get scared or terror, which are both not good to happen to you. But if you fail it by 8, you die. You got a concentrated dose, you're dead. And if that happens, that's his big thing. He gets a VP if he kills you that way. The Mad Hatter every turn gets to try to hypnotize somebody, right? Mm-hmm. If he succeeds, he gets a victory point. He's the Mad Hatter. That's what he does. The Riddler has his own damn set of rules for how he wins a game. Because he's the Riddler.
Nice.
But no, I mean, it's definitely not a game where you just run at your opponent and beat their face in.
No.
It's also very much about moving around the map and how you move around the map. Like, one thing about the Batman universe is it's not really portrayed as much in the movies and stuff. But if a guy shoots Batman with a gun in the head, he dies.
Yeah.
And that is portrayed in this game. Like, you don't just want to be on the receiving end of a gun.
I mean, you watch, for instance, watch the Gotham TV show. Friggin' Jim Gordon got shot. Jim Gordon got shot. There wasn't no two ways about it. And they had to take his ass someplace to get healed up. He had to.
Even the superpowered guys, right? Like,
yeah.
Bane, big Titan, like the scariest version of Bane, can get one rounded by an assault rifle.
Yeah.
It'll just kill him. At the end of the day, he's still just a dude.
Right.
So, their placement and moving around the map, and like, some crews are more fun to move around the map. Like, Batman is all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Batman sees somewhere he wants to be, he can get there.
Mm-hmm.
Two-Face, not as much. He's got to figure it out. But that's part of the game. Like, the criminals weren't always on the roofs. Right. Some of them are, and there's ways to do it. But there's also sewers. Once again, Killer Croc's probably going to be in a sewer. Do you really want to walk close to him now? There's a lot of strategy and placement and things going on the board. It's really cool how it all comes together when you play.
Cool. I'm very much looking forward to it, and we will be doing that here in just a minute, folks. So stick around. More Rage Quit Radio when we come back. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.
And we're out.
Hello, wrestling fans. Greg Hunter here, one half of the best damn announced team, period, along with John the Body Johnson, encouraging you to join us right here exclusively on the ECS network for the Announcers Booth. Between us, we have over 30 years' experience in the world of professional wrestling, and we use that to bring you the insights in the squared circle right here, past, present, and future on the ECS network. So join myself and John the Body Johnson for the Announcers Booth, only on the ECS network. All right, everybody, welcome back to Rage Quit Radio. We just got done actually watching Chris and Rich play a game of Batman. Sort of a bit of a learning experience watching two experienced players play this game. Or
half experienced.
Well, as experienced as anyone is going to be in this area at the moment.
I'm more experienced than Chris at the moment.
Well, no shit.
I don't know.
What's the full game title? So it's not just Batman?
The Batman miniature game.
It's
literally the Batman miniatures game.
Batman the miniatures game. That's the full title of the game. So, the voice you just heard, Travis Cooper, is in the house along with Dennis and Ryan McAllister, who, unless I'm really mistaken, this is... Well, I know it's the first time you've been on the New Rage Radio. Were you ever on the show before?
Not on the Rage, no.
Okay, so, real quick before we get... On the Rage. Yes. So, it may sound like a drug. But...
It is a drug.
Yeah. So real quick, if you would, Ryan, nothing long, nothing drawn out. Just let us know, reintroducing, or in this case, introducing yourself for the first time to the Rage Quit Radio audience, a little bit about yourself and your gaming background.
Appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, this is Ryan McAllister, and gaming-wise background, it's pretty cut and dry. The first thing that I was ever introduced was Dungeons & Dragons.
Okay.
I mean, it was the Greyhawk. It was the first major series.
Right.
As far as card games, it was the original Magic.
Like everyone else?
Like everyone else? Ever done up to now. I mean, I've always done like board games and stuff like that, but it's nothing really serious. But once I got into those two games, it was pretty good for the time.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the group that I played, we usually wound up before it was all said and done fighting each other. And it literally was. It started out fine, and then it started out picking, and then next thing you know, we were ganging up, and then attitudes were getting in the way. But it wound up being like that whether we played Magic the Gathering or
Now, we're talking like...
or freaking Risk.
No, are we talking... Well, Risk ends friendships. Are we talking like...
No, Monopoly ends friendships. Let's get that right.
No.
Let's get that right.
Really
And we won't even get started on diplomacy. So, a show that we will never play on this show, because if we do, it's the series finale. But when you say fight, are we talking like argument, get the fuck out of my house, or are we talking came to blows? I mean...
Oh, we were grabbing stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, it got... I mean, it was dumb. I mean, we had...
Rich, you've been playing with the wrong group all these years.
Yeah, I mean, I was the oldest, and I had two classmates that were, basically a year behind me, and then we had probably a 4.5, 5 year difference with the other three guys that were playing. We were all from the high school. Some of them were coming out of junior high into high, but we all were in this one particular area, and we all knew each other.
Right.
And it was just, over competitiveness among a couple of them,
Been there.
and stupidity on some of them.
Been there.
Basically, two of them, the balls hadn't dropped on them yet.
Been there.
I think I can safely speak for every host of this show, and hopefully I can speak for a lot of our listeners when I say, folks, if you're playing games and you're getting that fucking pissed off about it, you are in the wrong hobby. Because there's nothing in a game you will ever play that's worth getting that mad over.
Especially,
I recommend the hobby of getting punched in the face. It's okay to get mad at that.
Yes. If you take up getting punched in the mouth as a hobby, then you have every right to get pissed. Especially if the person who
totally do
introduced
MMA.
you to that hobby. So, with that in mind, we will set up a special portion of our Facebook page for anyone who needs to get a hold of Richard for suggesting this as a hobby. And, you can be pissed at him. So,
I'll say probably 85% was competitiveness that started everything.
yeah.
Because egos got a little too overmatched for
Right.
a couple of them.
And you play a good many minis games.
Yes.
So-
Yes, I've got a sickness just like Rich.
Ah.
This is where I gathered it. He's the host, and now I'm infected. That's just how it goes.
Actually, that sounds about right.
That's just how it goes.
No, it's just like Dennis over there going to Hong Kong getting us some cool stuff. We got to do. It's like, oh, he's on Hong Kong.
Thanks
Let's
for
go.
the love. I appreciate that.
In my defense,
I was going to say, little known fact, and my wife just can't seem to understand this when I tell her that. All these figure arts over here, 60 plus of them, that's his fault. It's Dennis's. He got me my
I don't know why it's my fault.
Think about it. You were the gateway.
All I did was
you were 100% the gateway.
all I did was get him one, and then all of a sudden he's like,
This is
me,
it.
like,
This is
50
the
million?"
origin. This is the origin of all my issues.
What?
Kamen Rider O's. That's my first figure art, which Dennis got me,
Dennis, let me
and
put
from,
to
it
you
was
this
all
way.
downhill from there.
When you go to when you hit Hong Kong, and you find any gaming store, any toy store that has those figure arts in it, that was going to happen. It was going to happen.
Now, you notice he said figure arts for Kamen Rider and Power Rangers. I have yet to see the true SH Monster Arts appear somewhere on one of those shelves.
Yeah, and it may not. So,
Come on.
Not on my
Come
shelf
on.
either.
Which, if it
So-
turns out, no, the one that you can take credit for and take all the heat for is the stack of where I now own every Millennium Godzilla movie, every Heisei Godzilla movie, working on slowly but surely getting all the Showa Godzilla movies, and a bunch of Gamera shit. That one's on you.
Outstanding,
So-
thank you.
Think about it, Ryan. You're the Monster Arts. He's the Sentai and Kamen Riders. I do all the anime shit. So I'm like, we got a little bit of everything between the three of us.
Yep. Now, Richard was going to defend himself against being the Typhoid Mary of minis games.
right, I was going to say that in recent months, like this year really, I have not went to anyone and said, hey dude, I got this game, you should play it with me. I've just been playing them, and I attract people, and I can't help that.
He's sexy that way.
It's the beard.
Actually,
Yeah.
It is the beard.
he totally texted me and said I should play Batman.
I did get a free...
Was he drunk? Did he drunk text you?
Now he's got his gank up. But it's okay,
Which is
guys.
funny, 'cause
It's okay,
imagine-
guys. I'm gonna be okay. I'm Asian. It's okay.
It's true, because I'll probably end up being the one getting stabbed regardless.
Oh, man.
So let's let's see if we can not violate any more of YouTube's terms of service and and move on to a different subject.
All right.
So let's talk about Batman the Minis game. Now, we heard from you two gents giving a little bit about it beforehand, just kind of going over some things. Ryan has a good bit of experience playing this game as well, comparatively speaking. Myself, Dennis, Coop, this was our first time ever seeing the game, I think, in person. So I'm very intrigued. I will say that first blush, I like the minis. I love comic books in general, so I'm very intrigued. We'll probably wind up picking up some of this. Your first blush impression, Dennis, from what you've seen?
I think a lot of the attraction is going to be the characters that you can play.
Yep.
Like you've seen them in the comics. You've lived with. You grew up with them. So I think that's really an attraction. My second blush is I think it's going to be a lot more fun playing it than watching it.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
we literally
It is.
because of time constraints, we really just watched this game happen.
Yeah.
But definitely want to bring back and actually play myself too. Perhaps do another episode on the future. Coop, can you be bothered to give a fuck about this game?
I like the miniatures. The rest of the system kind of looked like just a simplified Warhammer with 6 to 8 models and scenario. So, and I hate Warhammer 40K, so I'm done. Yeah.
So you're going to be to this episode as Chris over here was to our first episode where we talked about Infinity. You're just going to be kind of like I can't be bothered to care for the rest of the episode.
Pretty much.
There's reasons why, and I'll be glad to go and lay out why I had zero interest in what was really going on.
Well, we'll get there as we go on.
But I'll go and save that for the correct part of the cast to be cut out later.
Nice. Okay. So, real quick, for anyone out there who's never played the Batman Minis game, Rich, your game, you're the evangelist of this game, so kind of give us a very basic rundown, and then if you want to lead the discussion on this game, go for it. The key difference is we are a War Machine podcast.
Okay, so
Or at least we were. So
the game plays on a 3x3 board. First of all, it's a little
Right.
smaller than most people are used to. It's also measured in centimeters, which is a big change.
Right.
But it is from a European company, as we talked about. Terrain is
yeah,
going
that's
to be a
Good,
lot denser as you're playing in an urban environment. So there's going to be a lot more terrain, which is also important because guns are typically more deadly in this game than in any other game.
Pew, pew.
I don't really
Guns
know.
kill characters, kids.
That's very
Yes,
true.
that's true in this game.
the average minis game, at least as I've played them, you have your army, you roll to see who goes first, you each deploy. The setup process is much more involved in this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It feels like you have probably...
There's 5 stages to set up along.
Yeah, and just looking at the setup process, the phrase for War Machine is often used that you can lose a game during deployment. It feels like that can happen a lot more often in something like this. It feels that deployment is a great deal more crucial. Would I be right or wrong? How does that weigh out?
I actually don't think it's nearly as important as it
Really?
is in War Machine now. Especially like with a lot of it depends on what crew you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm playing Batman and I put him on the far right side of the board, and 2 turns he can be on the far left side, it takes no time to get there. When you're playing like a Joker crew or a Bane crew, where all the guys are just foot sloggers and all, a little more, but the movement's really kind of open and free in this game.
Mhm.
Like the ability to run 24 centimeters on top of rolling 2 or 3 dice to move that many centimeters, like that's a long way.
It is, and I definitely agree with that. But I think part of what I'm getting at is you're also not simply deploying your dudes. You're also deploying key pieces of terrain that will be focal points. You're deploying, in this case, like sewer entrances and
light
lampposts. You are deploying your objectives that are going to get used over the course of the game. And I can very easily see from what y'all are doing that can be a very big element to the game because those have actual mechanical game-changing elements.
Yeah, I mean, they're super important. Like you don't just throw your sewers and lights on the table. Like, absolutely, you need to like kind of think about where am I going to put my objectives. 2 phases later, where am I going to, how do I want my guys to be? Where's my deployment zone? Where's everything going to be? Because with sewers, that's a big difference from getting across the board.
So what is a sewer in this game? Explain that briefly.
A sewer is a 30mm token. It goes on the board, and your guys can go in a sewer. They have to spin a round out of the game afterwards, and the next round they can come out at any other sewer on the board.
So this is literally a way for you to, it's almost like the secret passage in Clue. You can traverse the entire table simply by using the sewer.
Correct.
Not always, because not every character can. Like Swamp Thing cannot stand the sewer because of the poison aspect listed on his card.
Okay.
But Croc, he starts the game in it if he wants. Or other characters, depending on the type of crew you run, will depend on the different abilities. Like you got Batman running around with a bat claw, so he's flying up over onto rooftops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you get other crews like the Joker who can pay extra for a bat claw to get up there and match him. It just depends on, as like he said, it just depends on how your crew operates, as how you want to lay down what you're really trying to do. See, with Ivy's crew, it took me a little while. He won the first game. I got him on the second game, which I thought was pretty cool. I was getting pretty excited about it. Especially with her, because I knew I had done screwed up. That's usually my MO. Get out there, and then I screw it up.
Right.
This time around, I didn't do that. Because I was running the Arkham Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
And, if it would have been for him kind of looking, talking to me that first game, I wouldn't really realize the correlation of some of the things that she does. Like the Immortal Kiss. 20 centimeters away, bring you, come over here, you fail, you're gone. That's just how lethal she is. Mm-hmm. And I tried that twice on Batman. Twice to get rid of him.
Well, let's come back to that in a second, to some of the specific models. The other thing is that struck me as very interesting about the game is something like, for instance, and I have to use War Machine as a large bit of my knowledge base. It's either War Machine or Attack Wing. But we also had a similar thing when we tried Infinity a couple episodes ago. Line of sight in those games it's daylight, or you have night vision goggles, or you have sensors or whatnot. It's Batman. It's the Batman universe. It's dark. It's nighttime. That's the assumption for every scenario. So line of sight and those lampposts as a result becomes a really big deal.
Right. So in the Batman game, you can only actually physically see 30 centimeters of the board at any given time. If any character is within 10 centimeters of a lamppost or any other light effect, they can be seen from anywhere, like, as long as you actually still have the unobstructed line to them. Like, obviously, you're a light and there's a building between us. I can't see you. There's a fucking building there. But as long as I'm just down the street, I'm 50 centimeters away, I can see you now. Right. So, like, you definitely don't want to just hang out in light post.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
And the placement of those, especially if you've got a lot of guys with guns, seems like really important. Another thing to me that struck me as very interesting, and I'll get Chris's insight on this because he definitely took advantage of it. Guns mean something here. This isn't. I come from Signar and War Machine, where it's everything's got a gun, and I can probably shoot most things on the table. But if it's got wounds, real good chance I may put a dent in it, but it ain't going away anytime soon. And I can shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot until the cows come home. You only got so much ammo. You only have so many shots. So I do like that, but you can make a shot count in this game.
Well, in this case in our game, I end up moving my assault guys up front, and Rich decides to take his leader, Bane, in anticipation that he's going to get the initiative next round. Well, unfortunately, I did. So, my first go, assault rifle into Bane. For every shot I get, it wounds, 3 blood?
Yeah.
For every shot? So, you have how many, 8?
8 endurance.
8 endurance.
And an assault rifle can do 9 blood.
9 blood. I ended up getting all 3 to hit, all 3 to wound. So, that's 9 blood shots. Bane's off the board in one go.
And that's the leader of your crew.
Right,
he just
correct.
one-shot it off with Joe Blow that had an assault rifle.
Right.
Pretty much. I had just regular old henchman.
Something we're also talking about, since we were talking about the characters right now, is that all of the characters were very thematic.
Yes.
Like all the way down to their mental disorders having game mechanics.
Yes.
Like there was one guy, an absolute scrub with a baseball bat, who just has to go and attack the same person until they're dead.
He's obsessive.
So again, the fact that every character seems to be like based, they were made thematic, then they went and made them balanced, kind of.
Well, I think they definitely went for theme first.
Theme first, yeah.
In their design mentality, looking at a lot of what we see here, because all the way down to where you'll have multiple versions of the same character, and the theming of each variation, it depends on where the character came from. There is a version of Batman in this game that is based on Adam West, and one of his weapons is the shark repellent bat spray. Whereas, and he's the cheapest Batman, as I understand.
He is.
But he's also...
No, he's not. The animated series Batman is the cheapest now.
But he's a very low-cost Batman, but he also isn't going to necessarily hold a candle to some of the other Batman models.
Correct.
But then you have, Batman from Arkham Knight, which is Batman in the prime of his career as the Dark Knight badass, and he costs a lot more, but it shows.
Right.
And he's a much different character.
This is certainly a game where you get what you pay for in a model. And the example I always like to talk about is Deathstroke.
Mm-hmm.
So you play 300 to 350 points in this game. Mm-hmm. Deathstroke has 145. That's half. He's half. But he's worth all 145 points. Like, his stats are high. He's got good attack. He's got multiple weapon options. He's got stealth. He can go toe to toe with Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and then when you pay 10 points for a prisoner with brass knuckles, that's what you expect. He's going to walk up to anybody with any kind of strength behind him and get his ass beat. You're paying for bodies in some cases to go do objectives and things like that. But you get what you pay for. I don't think this is a game where anybody feels like they cost too much or they cost too little. Like, you get what you pay for.
Another thing that strikes me as very interesting about this game is the way initiative works. Now, you play the average minis game, and you basically just go back and forth, back and forth. In this game, that initiative changes from turn to turn, almost through, it's pretty much blind luck. Mm-hmm. But it seems very interesting. It's balanced in that each player is going to get to go first, hopefully, an equal number of times. But it's a very different system. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, Ryan? Because
Well, going through, like with War Machine or Hordes or with Warhammer, basically it's initiated by the D6s in this system. Mm-hmm. It's basically 3 to 3. You roll. Now, depending on, again, going back to your crews, certain crews, certain characters, screw around with your initiatives. Basically, it takes away, adds to. It does help trying to be your first, but then again, there is definitely some advantages not being the first one out.
Now, probably worth noting here, with Ryan describing the initiative system as each of you putting in 3d6s and kind of rolling, probably worth mentioning that that's a bit of a variant. Because I know the actual by-the-book rules is you would each put in a number of tokens equal to half the number of turns, and you would pull one out at random out of a bag or other concealment.
Take the lead, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
But in what you guys were doing, sort of as a variation, but certainly has no real reason not to do it.
The exact same odds.
Yeah, it's the same odds. You're basically using D6s as the same. Each person puts in a number of D6s equal to half the turns of the game. Roll them off. The higher result gets the initiative that round, but you remove one of their dice from the pool.
Yep.
Right.
And if you look at it this way, instead of reaching in, you're 50-50 on which token you're going to pull. Here, it's like you're rolling it just like you roll with all your other stats. You really feel like you are taking the advantage, or you're getting the disadvantage.
And not to mention that it's a little quicker just to roll the dice. It takes time to get the bag, shake the bag, hold the bag open, let the person reach in, and then you're going to fumble around for whatever dice they want. Just pick them up and roll them. Done. So,
Rich is showing me the animated series models that have just come out for the Batman miniature game, the Batman and Catwoman minis, which look pretty dang true to the animated series motif. I also, just looking here, also saw the Arrow Oliver Queen one too, which looks pretty badass. But so
nice.
Another thing here, you pick your own objectives to bring to the table.
correct.
There's 4 different types of objectives, or more.
There's 4 generic
4
objectives.
base ones. Okay. Tell us a little bit about the objectives, because all of these objectives have a gameplay mechanic. It's not just, I sit on this and get points.
Right. So the way it works is after you've deployed your crews, you get to pick your objectives. And the scenario will tell you if there's any differences in the way it's normally done. There's usually not. They might just go somewhere different on the board. But just atypical out of the box, you've got 4. You've got ammo, Titan, For those not familiar with Titan, it's basically Venom plus more drugs, which is the drug that Bane does.
It's from the
video game.
It's from the Arkham video games.
There's riddles,
Mm-hmm.
self-explanatory, and there's loot, which is a bag of diamonds. Who gives a shit?
Mm-hmm.
So you get to pick 3. Which means you always kind of have to go, which ones are going to be better for me? Which ones are better for my crew?
Mm.
Like, do I have enough guns to justify ammo, etc.? So the way they work is 2 of them are very similar, Titan and Ammo. They have to be deployed in your opponent's deployment zone, so they are really far away from you at the start of the game. You have to figure out a way to get to them. But they're worth the most points. So Ammo, if you're in base with it in the round, you get 3 victory points.
Okay.
And Titan is 2. They also do other things, but I'm not going to go into too much detail right now about that.
Yeah. Simply, Titan makes your character physically better. Ammo is exactly what it sounds like. It lets you reload.
Right. So, the thing about the Titan and Ammo is your opponent can manipulate them to get the drugs or the ammo off of them, but they cannot score points off of them. Now, the riddles and loot is the other way around. They have to be deployed no further than 20 centimeters away from your opponent's deployment zone, so they're still way closer than you are, and they can get points off those. The way the riddles work is pretty simple. You walk up and you manipulate it. You roll a d6, and if it's a 1, you lose a point. If it's a 6, you gain 3 points. And in between, you might not get any points, and you might get 1 point. And it goes away no matter what you roll at the end of it.
Okay.
And then you've got loot, which is a little different. You manipulate it to pick it up. I mean, you can hold it, you move around and everything. And each round, you have to spend a movement counter to hold on to the loot. Each round that you have it, you gain a victory point at the end. But once again, like the downside to those is they're closer to your opponent, and they can score off of them. Anytime I play against anybody with riddles, the first thing I do is I send thugs beeline. I don't care if I lose points, gain points, what, I just want them off the table. So they can't get points off of them. You do have people, example, Scarecrow is a psychologist. He automatically solves riddles for a point. The Riddler automatically solves them for 3 points. So I have a Riddler crew, for example, right? And it forces a lot of hard choices on my opponent. So the Riddler himself can walk up to a riddle, bam, 3 points, right?
Right.
So you don't want to bring riddles. But I play Mr. Freeze in that crew as well, and he's got primary target loot, so he gets 2 points off loot. So you don't want to bring loot, but you got to bring one or the other. But I'm forcing you to take ammo and Titan, which is good because Freeze wants the ammo,
Right.
and Lobo, who's the other person I run in that crew, wants the Titan.
Nice. One other thing that, and we'll hit on this, I think this is the big point to me, and for the record, if you want to learn exactly how to play the game, things like that, there are plenty of wonderful videos that show you that on YouTube. There's no shortage of those. But to me, the biggest selling point, looking at what I was seeing here, because it looks, I think if you just watch it at first blush, you don't have someone there that can answer questions, it seems far more complex than it really is.
Yeah.
It looks like on the table like there's a lot more moving pieces than actually are there. But to me, the selling point is the theme. It's Batman, it's the DC Comics universe, and every model I've seen, now that I know a little bit about the rules and I've seen it, they actually feel and play that way. Because I know y'all have mentioned Bat, the baseball bat guy, the goon, and a couple others. The one you mentioned I thought was hilarious was Two-Face, who, as a game mechanic, actually has to flip a coin, just like he would in the television show or in the comic books. So, what thematically, getting to look at this stuff, what are some of the themes that you see between the different crews? I know you obviously can't go into all of them; it's only an hour show. But
I'll talk about a couple of my favorite ones. Right. So 2 of my favorite crews are Black Mask, which is a little less known of a villain, but it's Roman Saronis, and he's just a mob leader basically.
Yeah.
So he's not gonna come fight you. He's a gang leader. What he does do is he lets his guys be able to chain off each other and activate in succession. He also has an ability that gives his whole team crit blood. Like, he's more of the sit back and, hey, you guys go do that. I'm the boss, right? Which is really cool, and it's reflected through his crew like that.
Especially when he runs Firefly with it.
No, that was just to piss you off, but...
Yeah, well, that works too. Because that's something Swamp Thing just can't... He's got to run the opposite direction. Just get away from it completely.
The Scarecrow crew, what I like about it is it's based off the Arkham Knight video game Scarecrow. And so it's, he's got all the militia with him. And what's cool about it is a lot of the militia come with gas masks, which makes them immune to the fear gas that Scarecrow does. But Scarecrow can shoot you with fear gas, and you take a willpower check, which is you roll 2 dice, you need to get your willpower under. I've got a chart, and for every point you fail it by, something happens to you. And if you fail it by 8, you die. But when you die from the fear gas, Scarecrow gets an additional victory point. Because that's how he rolls. That's what he does. He wants to test fear gas on people. I mean, there's a lot. Like, you mentioned Two-Face. I think that's an awesome rule. Like, is it the most competitive thing to do for a competitive game? No, but I play this for fun, so I don't care. Like, the fact that Two-Face every round flips a coin to see if his willpower is high or low is awesome to me, because that's Harvey Dent and melted Harvey Dent doing their...
Well, technically, if you want to think about it, I mean, there's not really a comic book-based superhero/villain tabletop game out there, particularly that matches what this game brings specifically.
There are a couple of superhero minis games out there, but you're looking at something either like Hero Clicks, which is
more like a big game of chess.
Well, or even
checkers.
To me, it feels more like it's a standard board game than a minis game.
Yeah.
Or you have something like Sentinel Tactics, which I've not yet gotten to play.
That's 100% a board game, though.
Yeah, but it is still largely a board game.
Yeah.
So, but this is, you're absolutely right. It's really the only superhero minis game.
But for someone who really wants that, I mean, I know it's DC, and we're looking at Marvel fixing to hit the road running with this
comes
too.
out January 5th.
Nice.
The Marvel game.
Okay, so but if you're looking, if you are a mainstream and you love the DC and you love the Marvel, or if you're not and you're just looking for a really good minis game dealing with that, then this one is definitely your cup of tea.
Here's the thing, and I said this at the beginning, but I want to say it again because it's a big part of it. Most miniature games that you're going to get into, you absolutely have no attachment to the characters. Like, sure, Private Troopers did an awesome job writing up these characters, but at the end of the day, I don't give a shit about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these are characters, like, I grew up as a kid watching on TV, reading in comics. Like, I have an attachment to some of these characters. Like, I love some of these characters. Right. So it's awesome to to take this persona that I've known for years and years of my life and put it on the table and do stuff with it. It's something you don't get anywhere else, to my knowledge.
And I think that's one of the reasons I will probably pick up at least a crew for this game myself. Now, my question is, since you two guys kind of keep a little more on top of what Night Models is doing and what release are going to... I need to know when the crew is coming out that will be led by Alfred Pennyworth from Gotham.
If it makes you feel better, they have made a penguin from Gotham.
I know.
So it's totally possible.
I need the Sean Pertwee Alfred Pennyworth in my life. If it's in this game, it's a lock. So, because he is a badass. But anyway, no, looking at the game, I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's my attraction to it. Is I like, I'm a DC Comics nerd. I'm more of a, I would say I'm probably more of a movie geek than a comic book geek at this point in my life. My attachment in a lot of cases is an attachment to the actor, in some cases more than the character. Like, one of the first crews I want to get is the League of Shadows crew, led by Liam Neeson's version of Ra's al Ghul. At the same time, I was super stoked to see that there is a crew that can be led by the Arrow TV show version of Green Arrow. So, which is one of my favorite shows on TV.
Yeah, it's a big plus that they don't, they have to license this, and they're not just drawing it from one source. Like, they're not just taking, like, they're doing video games, comics, like Court of Owls, to my knowledge, is only a comic book thing right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome to me. So you got, all the TV shows, all the movies, like, there's just so much they can do.
Yeah, like, Nissa Al Ghul
as soon as they put an Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze in, it's fucking on, guys.
Nissa Al Ghul is only Raj's daughter in the Arrow television series because they couldn't touch Talia because of the Batman media.
Right.
But in this medium, you can have, do you want comic book Ra's al Ghul, or do you want the Dark Knight, or the Batman Begins Ra's al Ghul? And if you want to have the Al Ghul family reunion, there's no reason you theoretically can't have both Nissa from Arrow and Talia from the comic books.
Yeah,
it's very true.
So I really do dig that. If I would call theme the ultimate strong suit of this game, if there's a weak point, what is it?
There's a couple things I'd like to mention here. The first is, while Night Models, I've learned their customer service is fantastic. I've had a couple of mispacks, and I've had a couple of bad castings.
Yeah.
As simple as, I literally bought a model that didn't have a nose. I emailed them, sent them a picture, I had it in a week.
Okay.
So that's good, and some of the models take a little more work to put together. Like, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good example. My Scarecrow crew. Oh my god! Like, just some of the pieces just didn't want to stick. They just was a pain. But I've also bought some where dab glue done. Like, I've had plenty that were fine too. So I don't know if it's
Just
old versus new
is it
production
QC?
techniques.
Is it QC all over the place? Do you think, or is it just
No, I've had more good than bad.
okay?
But there have been some bad, and I think that's something that needs to be known for anybody that's thinking about getting into it. Like, some people don't enjoy modeling or any of that, and
So-
if you don't, like, you might want to think about getting a buddy to put it together.
The
for
bad
you
is
that
the
likes it.
isolated incident. It's not the norm.
Right.
Okay. That's fair.
I have not necessarily, and I've played maybe 30 games at this point against, people. I've taught a lot of people and everything, and I haven't decided if it's balanced. I haven't even looked at that yet because I don't look at this game as a game that I'm going to go to tournaments for, but it's just fun to throw down and play. Man, what would be awesome? Like I mentioned earlier, Ryan Taylor bought Tom Hardy Bane and Cillian Murphy Scarecrow and Liam Neeson Rosh. He wanted to play them, so I bought Christian Bale Batman because I thought they got to fight each other. It makes sense. Let's just do that.
Right.
And then he talked like Tom Hardy, and I talked like Christian Bale the whole time, and both our thirds were sore at the end of the day.
Nice. If there's a downside, Ryan, what do you got?
I have to go with Rich. I've got a model that came in. Sometimes some of the stuff is really flimsy, particularly, and it's you do get into that little itsy bitsy want to sit there and cuss for 20 minutes because some things don't come together.
Also, the shit known as I ain't just gonna put that on it. Whatever.
Yeah. Or as I like to refer to it, Nis Hunter syndrome.
Oh, God.
So
Oh shit! I dropped it down an air vent.
or like some of the new plastic stuff from Malifaux too. That's like there's no sense in the way they got some of that stuff going on. But in general, I don't see any real problem with the rules. I don't see any real problem with the play. To me, it's kind of like it's not competitive, but you can make it competitive a little bit. Because if you really do think about what you're playing, if I'm playing like the Court of Owls, then I'm gonna portray the Court of Owls as they should be from the comics. They're going to be unstoppable. I'm not going to wait for Batman to come flying down and show himself, like the crap that was in Batman Forever. I'm going to go and have a talk with him. That's how I'm going to be portraying that particular crew, and I'm going to have fun doing it.
Mm.
This game is so thematic, and I'm not just shooting you. I once threw a game because it was the thematic thing to do. So, a situation comes up. I'm playing against Batman, and I'm playing Scarecrow, and I have Deathstroke.
Mm-hmm.
So, some things have happened. The game is tied.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier in the game, Batgirl was standing right in front of Deathstroke, and there's a cop with a gun. And I'm like, well, you can shoot Deathstroke. I just get a save for Batgirl, and if I save that save, you have to roll to hurt Batgirl. He's like, I can't do it, man. The cops wouldn't do it. A little bit later, I have a militia guy standing in front of Batgirl with Deathstroke in the way. And I killed my fucking militia guy, because he would have Deathstroke would have took that shot. It was the thematic thing to do. I could have killed her. If he thought he could have killed her, he would have shot through his own guy to do it in a heartbeat. That's Deathstroke. So the game ended on me losing by a point because I knocked my own dude out.
Chris, if there's a reason that you wouldn't like this game, what would it be? Okay, thank you for that insightful comment. Dennis, first blush. Now we're going to look at the last blush. What have you seen here that makes you question this one?
Makes me question this one. I don't know. It just, like you guys have been saying that it's not as complicated as it looks, but there's a lot of stuff going on. It seems
There is.
Yeah, like you've got counters, you got counters all over your cards. You got people moving like where your counters are supposed to be, and then you're moving your counters back to where they're supposed to be, and so on and so forth. So there's like all this planning beforehand before you can actually do anything in the game.
There's certainly a lot of like it's a resource management game at its core, and there's a lot of predetermined strategy. Like what happens is, let me explain what he's talking about here.
Sure.
You have a willpower stat. Every character has it. Batman's like an 8. As an example, a random prisoner is like a 4. Okay, those are your high and low. There's no one below 4, and nothing above 8 that I know of off the top of my head right now. What happens is, after you determine initiative, whoever has it does what's called raising the plan. So you generate your action tokens, and then you have to put them in your different stats. So basically in this game, without an action token, there you can't do shit. Like, you get your basic movement, that's it. You spend attack counters to attack. You spend defense counters to move. You spend move counters to move or dodge or whatever. So there's a lot of, what do I need my guy to do this turn? What's near him that can hurt him? Like, what all do I need to kind of think about? And that's one reason that Joker is an excellent crew to start with, because he says, you don't have to think about anything. Just put it all in defense when you activate. Figure out what you want to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's pluses and minuses to it. To somebody who loves resource management, that would be great. But sometimes it really depends on who your opponent is, right? If you play somebody like Rich, bam, 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 he can think really quick about it. I've played players before that it will take them half an hour to move one dude.
Yeah, I mean, I
and
agree
that could be, and that could be really that could really suck the fun out of the game. So it's really important that both of you think quickly before you actually do stuff, and not just sit there and like think forever before you actually do anything.
I think AP can definitely be a problem with this game. Analysis paralysis can kill this one, I think.
But the thing is, though, like, you know, I've done a lot of demos, right? And the people that are like that typically don't pick it up. They're like, whatever, I'm just not playing this. Because there's so much to think about. Like, if you get that way with any game, you're going to do it with this one.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
the first game we did was slow. The second game...
The first game
was quick.
Teaching anybody is always slow. The other downside I was talking about is you have all these traits. Like there's like 100 different traits in the game. They're not defined on the card because the card's already huge and there's just not room for it. I get that. There's a sweet app on Android. It's BMREF. It's free and it's got all that stuff on it. But once you kind of start getting the hang of it, like I'm at the point now where I know what a lot of the traits do just from playing so much.
Right.
It comes with time. It was like Mark I War Machine. Like you had to know what all those abilities did. There was no symbols or reference. You just had to know. Overall, man, like it's of all the games I've played, as far as fun factor, I give it a 10 out of 10. I've had a lot of fun with it. You get to see some things like, man, what would happen if Scarecrow fought Two-Face? I can't remember that happening in the comics. Let's just play it and find out, right? It's a lot of fun, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Is it for everybody? No. Is it for me? You bet your ass it is.
Coop, it is the appropriate point of the podcast.
Alright, so as someone who, at least for a while, went and played competitive miniatures game, this is definitely not for that kind of person, I don't feel. Because it is so thematically influenced that it's more of a, let's go and basically play an episode of a TV show. That's basically what it is kind of boiling down to, which is cool. That's just not for me. I like winning. That's a very important aspect of how I go and play games. Like, even if I lose, I want to be able to know that I'm at least doing a winning strategy of some sorts. Dice happen. That's why you go and play the games. But this is one of those situations where you can get sucked into playing really bad characters, I feel, really easily because they're thematic. But if you're okay with playing fun, casual games, this looks great. It looks absolutely amazing. The other downside that I saw, the game looks like it takes a while, even if you know what you're doing, because the last 4 turns of the game between Rich and Chris.
He's right there.
Is that it went and took them an hour to play the last 4 turns.
Now, to be fair, I should probably point this out. To be fair, that whole game probably would have took at most an hour and a half if we hadn't been bullshit.
I think we could have knocked it out in an hour.
Yeah,
honestly.
Again, for the
But
last
still.
four turns, you guys weren't actually talking to us that much.
I got a work phone call. I had
And
to
it
step
still
out.
went and took an hour. Like, you guys have been playing that game for 2.5 to 3 hours, since I have been here in the room. That was with the talking. So again, I'm just saying that I think it's a long game. It's not going to lend itself to any sort of competitive tournament format at all because the game takes too long.
Well, I know that they use death clocks when they play competitively.
Okay.
But nothing like making you make a
Yeah.
decision or lose.
Yeah. But now, I will say, I think I do agree with you in that I would never want to play this game competitively because I think it is built theme first, everything else second.
I 100% agree. And the thing is, like, when you play a game like this, but all the talking we've done about that's the big draw, it's thematic, is like when you play a game like that, you want to play the characters you like. It doesn't matter what they do. I love Mr. Freeze. I'm going to play fucking Mr. Freeze. I don't give a shit if he's bad or not.
I mean,
Nice to see you.
when they the fact that they are actually, printing animated series characters, with them going and breaching into the animated shows. There is, hope that they will go and eventually expand beyond just Batman as far as the genre.
Well, and they already have,
yes.
because they've done Arrow. They're about to do Marvel. They're doing the Batman animated series. Still Batman, but
Yes.
But you've also got Wonder Woman, you've got Flash, you've
Superman!
got two
They've got
different
models
versions of
for all.
Superman. So, I mean, the theory is it's there to expand.
I mean, when they go and breach the licensing and start to go and bring in Marvel stuff and whoever owns Fantastic Four these days,
They've already got the rights to all that.
and
Yeah.
X-Men, and
I mean,
everything.
They've got
even-
models out for
like-
that stuff already.
They're
So-
even doing 70mm of Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Then I'll be interested in possibly breaching into this game, because I'm not a DC guy. I have not gone and given one shit about a single DC character in 30 years. I'm 32 years old.
Yeah.
well, now to be fair, as we've discussed earlier, the company Night Models was a model company and toy company first.
Right.
They've made several models like the Superman, the Wonder Woman, the Flash. Those are models you can buy. They have no rules as of yet, as I understand.
Yeah, as far as
That's
I know.
how
But-
the Marvel stuff was too.
Yeah,
but it's
but-
been pulled so they can put rules in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're like Marvel becomes the Marvel miniatures game starting. What did you say? January 5.
January 5th, the first releases come out, and I'm with you. Like Travis, 100%. Dude, like I am not per se a DC fan. Like I will, if it's on TV, I will watch it. I watch Arrow, I watch Flash. Like I don't hate it, but if I had to choose a world where only Marvel and DC existed, bye Batman. See ya. Like Marvel is my shit.
Exactly.
Venom is my favorite character. And like when they announced that, and I saw the Green Goblin card and the Venom card, like overdrive though, right? So
Multi-jerky.
and
yes.
I was reading this morning, and the official Night Model statement is, and I think this works, and this is the best decision to make. At official events, there will be no crossing. It will be a Batman tournament or a Marvel tournament. It will not be a superhero game tournament. But as far as they encourage playing it against each other. And the thing is, in my head, I was like, how are they gonna because the Marvel dudes compared to the street level dudes you're talking about, like how does Green Goblin not just fucking obliterate Two-Face? Well, he does. Two-Face is like 70 rep, and Green Goblin is 200 rep.
Because Two-Face has a Magnum, and guess what? Magnums go and kill everyone pretty equally.
That's true, and he also has an army of fucking henchmen, which Green Goblin doesn't have.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the points difference is there. So, like, let's play a 300-point Batman game. Sweet. I get Green Goblin and, like, a dude, and you get an entire Two-Face crew. So, that's where, like, I don't have the bodies to do everything. I'm just doing it because I want to.
Oh, yeah.
And they're cheaper characters. Venom's like 160. Spider-Man's 140.
But so far, have all the Marvel characters you've seen basically outpace all the DC characters you've seen?
They're in line. Punisher looks just like an elite dude with guns from Batman. Like, he's very much a Magnum and an M16 of shoot you in the fucking face.
What do you think about the Thing and Thanos? How would they compare up against, like, Solomon
But
Grundy
the thing is,
or
you can
Croc
always... Like, you ask yourself, how can they put Hulk in this game and it be fair?
Yeah.
You can always make Hulk 800 points. So, you can play him if you can find someone to play 800 points against you. And in Marvel, you'd be able to do that fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's Cap, Spider-Man.
And then you lose on scenario, because that's still a thing.
Right. And if you want to play against a Batman crew with Hulk, you better hope somebody's got a shitload of Batman models. That's all I'm saying. Like, there are certain things, like, I would honestly not... I wouldn't want to see a Hulk, because, like, Hulk and Superman, they're in that power threshold where it's like, what do you do against them?
But there are scenario rules to go
Right.
and help with that. Sure, Batman may be bulletproof or whatever, but he is definitely not immune to a single damn thing done by Scarecrow.
Right.
So, again, like, the game has thematic ways for DC villains to go and fuck over superheroes.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I think we've about exhausted what we can talk about at this point with Batman, but I do think it's one we'll come back to because I'm definitely interested in playing the game myself. I will subscribe to my own advice and play with the house money, I think, for a little while, because there are two people here who have a plethora of models for this game. Dennis, you down for learning this one?
Sure.
If
So-
you guys got Commissioner Gordon.
I do.
Yeah.
This Commissioner
Okay.
Gordon's in the game.
I call him Gary Oldman, though.
At
You're
some
on.
then at some point in the probably not terribly distant future, we will try to have Commissioner Gordon versus Raj Al Ghul on the podcast, where I guess theoretically I'm the cheating Asian because I'm Raj Al Ghul, but I'm not really because I'm Liam Neeson. So anyway, folks, with that said, until next time, this is Mike,
Rich.
Dennis.
Chris.
Travis.
Ryan.
and we'll see you next time on Rage Quit Radio.